The distress signal came from a planet that had no name on any human map. It was just a number in the database, a small world at the edge of explored space. But the signal was clear, and the United Earth starship Horizon's Edge was the closest vessel. Captain Dohan Lee stood on the bridge and looked at the burning wreckage on the screen. Something had crashed on the planet's surface. Something big? The flames were still rising into the gray sky. Survivors? He asked. Unknown, sir, the scanner officer replied. But there are life signs. Faint, but present. Dohan turned to his medical officer. Una Park was already pulling on her jacket, her medical bag ready. She was a small woman with calm eyes and steady hands. In 5 years of service, Dohan had never seen her panic. Not once. Take a team, he said. Find out what happened down there. Una nodded. She picked 2 security officers, Jinho and Myra, and headed for the shuttle bay. 20 minutes later, they were walking through smoke and twisted metal on the planet's surface. The wreckage was not human. That much was clear immediately. The metal was darker than anything humans built, and the shapes were wrong. The doors were too tall, the corridors too wide. Una felt very small as she walked through the ruins. What kind of ship is this? Jinho whispered. His weapon was raised, his eyes moving constantly. I don't know, Una admitted. But someone here needs help. Keep moving. They found bodies first. The aliens were tall and thin, with hard shells covering their bodies like armor. Their faces had large eyes, and their hands had too many fingers. They looked like insects, but bigger than any insect Una had ever imagined. Most of them were dead. Some were still breathing, but barely. Una wanted to help them, but she knew nothing about their biology. She could kill them by accident just by touching them wrong. She made notes on her tablet and kept moving. Then they found the central chamber. It was larger than the rest of the ship, with a high ceiling that was now open to the sky. Smoke drifted through the gap. And in the center of the room, surrounded by dead guards, was something different. She was alien, yes, but she was not like the others. Her body was more graceful, her shell smoother and darker. She wore something that looked like jewelry made of light. And she was wounded. Silver blood pooled beneath her, spreading across the floor like spilled moonlight. Around her, 6 guards still lived. They raised their weapons at the humans immediately. The sound they made was like clicking mixed with hissing. A warning. Easy, Una said softly. She held up her empty hands. We're not here to hurt anyone. The guards did not understand her words, but they understood the gesture. They hesitated. Then the wounded female moved. She raised one trembling hand, and the guards lowered their weapons. Not completely, but enough. Her large eyes, dark as space itself, fixed on Una. Una had seen many things in her career. She had treated wounds on a dozen different worlds. She had held dying soldiers and saved screaming children. But she had never felt anything like the gaze of this alien queen. It went through her like light through glass. Slowly, carefully, Una walked forward. The guards watched her every step. Jinho and Myra stayed back, their weapons ready but not raised. Una knelt beside the queen. Up close, she could see the wound clearly. Something had cut through the queen's side, slicing through the shell and into the soft tissue beneath. The silver blood was still flowing, but slowly. The queen was dying, but not quickly. I'm going to help you, Una said. She knew the queen could not understand, but she spoke anyway. The tone mattered more than the words. I'm a healer. I fix people who are broken. That's what I do. She pulled out her medical scanner. The technology was not designed for aliens, but it could still tell her basic things: temperature, blood flow, the location of the wound. She studied the readings and made quick decisions. This will hurt. Then she reached out and touched the queen's wound. She was gentle. As gentle as she had ever been. Her fingers barely pressed against the damaged tissue, checking the depth of the cut, feeling for fragments or blockages. Medical training guided her hands without her needing to think. The queen's body stiffened. Una froze. Had she hurt her? Was this some kind of offense in alien culture? She looked up at the queen's face, ready to apologize, but the queen was not angry. She was not in pain. She was staring at Yuna with an expression that looked almost like shock. Her large eyes were wide, her mouth slightly open. She looked like someone who had just seen something impossible. The guards shifted nervously. They were confused too. Something was happening that they did not understand. Yuna continued her work. She cleaned the wound as best she could with human medicine. She applied pressure to slow the bleeding. She used her emergency sealant, hoping it would work on alien biology. It seemed to help. The silver blood stopped flowing so fast. Through it all, the Queen watched her. She never looked away. Not once. When Yuna finished the emergency treatment, she sat back on her heels. "That's the best I can do here," she said. "You need proper care. A real medical facility." The Queen spoke for the first time. Her voice was strange, like music played underwater. The words meant nothing to Yuna, but then the Queen reached out. Her long, dark fingers wrapped around Yuna's wrist. Not hard, not threatening. Just holding, and she spoke again, slowly. As if trying to make Yuna understand through will alone, Jinho stepped forward, alarmed. "Doctor—" "It's okay," Yuna said. She did not pull away. "She's not hurting me." The Queen's eyes searched Yuna's face, looking for something, trying to understand something that clearly confused her deeply. Then from outside the ship, more sounds came. More clicking, more hissing. Another alien vessel was landing. Reinforcements. The Queen released Yuna's wrist. She gave a command to her guards, her voice suddenly strong despite her wound. The guards responded immediately, lifting her carefully from the floor. One guard approached Yuna. It gestured with its weapon, not threatening but clear. "Come with us." Yuna looked back at Jinho and Myra. "Tell the captain what happened." "I'm going with them." "Doctor, that's insane," Myra said. "Maybe," Yuna agreed. "But she's my patient now. I don't leave patients." Before they could argue, Yuna followed the guards out of the wreckage and into the waiting alien ship. The door closed behind her with a sound like thunder, and somewhere above, the horizon's edge watched helplessly as their medical officer disappeared into the unknown. The alien ship was larger than anything Yuna had ever seen. It stretched across the sky like a floating city, dark and silent and impossibly huge. Inside, the corridors were wide enough for giants, and the lights glowed soft purple. Everything hummed with power she could not understand. The guards took her to a small room. It was not a prison cell, but it was not comfortable either. A flat surface for sleeping. A strange device that might have been a toilet. Nothing else. They left her there without explanation. Yuna sat on the flat surface and waited. She had no way to contact her ship. No way to know what was happening outside. All she could do was trust that she had made the right choice. Hours passed. Or maybe days. The purple light never changed, so she could not tell time. She slept when she was tired. She thought about the Queen when she was awake. Finally, the door opened. A guard stood there, gesturing for her to follow. They took her through winding corridors to a room that was obviously important. The walls were covered with screens showing stars and planets. In the center, on a raised platform, the Queen lay on something like a medical bed. Other aliens surrounded her, working on her wound with tools Yuna did not recognize. The Queen saw Yuna enter. She raised her hand and the other aliens stopped. They stepped back, their expressions unreadable. An alien approached Yuna. This one was different from the others. Smaller, with markings on its shell that might have been decorations or symbols of rank. It carried a device that it pressed against its throat. "You will understand now," the device said in broken but clear English. "Translation is working." Yuna blinked in surprise. "You speak my language?" "The machine speaks." "I do not." The alien gestured at the Queen. "She wants to talk to you." "Only you." Yuna walked forward. The Queen's eyes followed her every step. Up close, Yuna could see that the wound was healing. The alien doctors had done good work. But the Queen still looked weak, still looked tired. "Sit," the Queen said through her own translation device. Her voice was softer now, less like underwater music and more like wind through leaves. "I have questions." Yuna sat on a small seat that rose from the floor at some unseen command. I'll answer if I can. The queen studied her for a long moment. Then she asked the question that had clearly been burning in her mind since they met. Why did you touch me like that? Yuna frowned. Like what? Gently. The queen said the word slowly, as if it was new to her. You touched my wound, but you did not hurt me. You were ... careful. Why? Because I was trying to heal you, Yuna said. That's how healing works. You have to be gentle with wounds. The queen's expression changed. Confusion, deep confusion. She turned to the smaller alien and spoke rapidly in her own language. The alien responded, equally confused. Explain this word, the queen finally said. Gentle, what does it mean? Yuna felt a cold realization creep through her. You don't have a word for gentle? No, what about kind, caring, compassionate? The translator device made struggling sounds. These concepts do not translate. They do not exist in our language. Yuna sat very still. She was beginning to understand something terrible. Something sad. This species, for all their technology and power, had never developed the idea of gentleness. They did not know what kindness was because no one had ever shown them. Tell me about your people, she said carefully. How do you treat the wounded? The queen tilted her head. The wounded are useless. If they can heal themselves, they survive. If they cannot, they die. This is the natural way. You don't help them heal? Why would we? The queen seemed genuinely puzzled. Weakness must be eliminated. Only the strong can serve the empire. Yuna thought about human history. She thought about hospitals and doctors and the simple act of holding someone's hand when they were afraid. She thought about mothers caring for sick children, about strangers helping strangers after disasters, about the basic human instinct to ease suffering, wherever it was found, and she realized that the queen had never experienced any of that. Not once in her entire life. Among my people, Yuna said slowly, we believe that helping the weak makes us strong. When someone is hurt, we care for them. We touch them gently. We give them comfort. It is considered ... honorable. The queen was silent for a long time. Her large dark eyes never left Yuna's face. I am the queen of the Villani Empire, she finally said. I have ruled for 200 of your years. I have conquered worlds. I have crushed rebellions. I have watched enemies die by the thousands. She paused. No one has ever touched me the way you did. No one has ever been ... gentle ... With me, Yuna's heart ached. 200 years. 200 years of power and violence and loneliness. I would like to know your name, Yuna said. Among my people, we share names with those we wish to know. The queen considered this. My title is Empress of the Eternal Night, ruler of the 7 sectors, voice of the Ancient Ones, but my birth name is Nari. Nari, Yuna repeated. I'm Yuna, Yuna. The Queen Nari spoke the name like she was tasting something strange and sweet. You are very small, Yuna, very soft. How has your species survived? We survive by helping each other, Yuna said simply. We are stronger together than alone. Nari made a sound that might have been laughter. Impossible. Together means conflict. Together means competition. Together means war. Not for us? Not always. Yuna leaned forward. Let me prove it to you. Let me continue treating your wound. Let me show you what gentleness means. Nari stared at her. The room was completely silent. Every alien was watching, waiting for their queen's response. Very well, Nari said at last. You will stay here. You will treat my wound. And you will explain these strange human concepts to me. She raised her hand and a guard stepped forward. Give her better quarters. She is not a prisoner. Nari paused, searching for the right word. She is a guest. It was, Yuna realized, probably the first time the queen had ever used that word to describe anyone. As the guard led her away, Yuna glanced back. Nari was still watching her, those dark eyes full of something that looked almost like hope, and Yuna knew with sudden certainty that she was about to change the fate of empires. Days turned into weeks. Yuna settled into a strange routine on the alien flagship. Every morning, she went to the Queen's chambers. Every morning, she treated Nari's wound with careful, gentle hands. And every morning, Nari watched her with those deep, dark eyes, learning the wound was healing well. The human sealant worked better than expected on Villani biology. But even as the flesh knit together, Yuna did not stop coming. And Nari did not ask her to stop. "Tell me about your home," Nari said one morning. She was sitting up now, strong enough to move. But she still let Yuna change her bandages. She still let those soft human fingers touch her damaged shell. "Earth?" Yuna smiled as she worked. "It's beautiful. Blue oceans. Green forests. We have animals of every shape and size. And billions of humans all living together." "Billions?" Nari sounded shocked. "How do they not kill each other?" "Oh, we do sometimes," Yuna admitted. "We have wars. We have conflicts. But mostly we find ways to live in peace. We talk, we trade, we make agreements. And when someone breaks the agreement, we talk more. We try to understand why. Sometimes we fight, yes. But we always try talking first." Nari was quiet for a moment. "The Villani do not talk. We demand. We take. It is simpler, is it?" Yuna looked up at her. "You have an empire that spans hundreds of worlds. But here you are, wounded, alone, with no one who cares if you live or die. Is that simple?" The words were harsh, but Yuna spoke them gently. And somehow that made them easier to hear. Nari looked away. "You're very bold for such a small creature." "I'm a doctor. Being bold is part of the job." For the first time, Nari made a sound that Yuna recognized as genuine laughter. It was soft, almost surprised, like Nari herself did not expect it. "I find myself waiting for your visits," Nari admitted quietly. "I do not understand why. I have lived for centuries without waiting for anyone." Yuna finished the bandaging and sat back. "Maybe because I'm the first person who touches you without wanting something from you. I don't want your power. I don't want your throne. I just want you to heal." Nari turned back to look at her. Something had changed in her expression. The coldness that lived behind her eyes was melting slowly, like ice in spring sun. "Do it again," she whispered. Yuna blinked. "Do what?" "Touch the wound. Gently, like before." Yuna understood. She reached out and placed her hand over the bandaged wound. She did not press. She did not move. She just let her warmth seep through the fabric, let her presence be known. Nari closed her eyes. For a moment she looked almost peaceful. Back on the horizon's edge, things were not peaceful at all. Taiho Kim paced the bridge like a caged animal. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since Yuna had disappeared into that alien ship. 3 weeks of silence. "We have to get her back," he said, for the 100th time. Captain Doan shook his head. "We're one ship against an empire. If we attack, we die. If we die, Yuna has no one coming for her at all. So we just wait. We wait. We watch. And we look for an opportunity." The opportunity came sooner than expected. A message arrived through the communication system. "Text only, translated awkwardly into English. Yuna Park is safe. She is guest of Empress Nari, human vessel May. Approach for communication. Nitrogen monoxide weapons." Teho read the message 3 times. "It's a trap." "Maybe," Doan agreed. "But it's also our only chance." 2 days later, Taiho stood in a docking bay on the alien flagship, face to face with Yuna. She looked tired, but healthy. And she was smiling. "You're alive," he said stupidly. "Very alive?" She hugged him quickly. "I have so much to tell you." Over the next hour, in a small meeting room, Yuna explained everything. The Queen. The concept of gentleness. The slow, careful work of teaching an entire species what compassion meant. Teho listened with growing horror. "You're trying to reform an alien empire through hugs?" "Not just hugs, conversation, understanding, connection." Yuna leaned forward. "Taiho, they're not evil. They're just alone. They never learned that there was another way to be. They conquered hundreds of worlds, and they're unhappy. Even the queen, the most powerful being in their civilization, is miserable. She has everything except the one thing that matters, which is someone who cares about her. Not her power, not her throne. Just her. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. He had known Yuna for 5 years. He had never seen her so passionate about anything. This is insane, he finally said. I know. You could die? I know that too. The captain is going to lose his mind. Yuna smiled. Will you help me explain it to him? Taiho sighed heavily. He looked at the ceiling, at the strange purple lights, at the impossible situation he had somehow wandered into. Fine, he said. But if this goes wrong, I'm blaming you forever. That night, Yuna returned to Nari's chambers. The queen was waiting for her, standing by a window that showed the endless stars outside. Your people came, Nari said without turning around. They're worried about me. They should be. I am dangerous. Yuna walked to stand beside her. Are you? Nari turned to look at her. In the starlight, her dark shell gleamed like polished stone. She was beautiful in a strange, alien way. Beautiful and sad and terribly alone. I was, Nari said softly. I am not sure what I am now. She reached out and took Yuna's hand. Her long fingers were cool and smooth. She held on like someone afraid of drowning. Teach me more, she whispered. Teach me what it means to care. And Yuna, holding the hand of an empress who had never known kindness, began the hardest lesson of all. Word spread through the Villani Empire like fire through dry grass. The queen had taken a human, not as a prisoner, not as a slave, as something else, something that had no name in their language. In the military command center of the Third Fleet, Admiral Haiyan received the reports with growing anger. He was old for a Villani, nearly 400 years, and he had served the Empire his entire life. He had watched 3 queens rise and fall. He had conquered worlds in their names. And now this. She keeps the human in her private chambers, his spy reported. They talk for hours. The human touches her wound. The queen allows it. Haiyan's voice was cold as space itself. The queen allows prey to touch her? Yes, Admiral. Haiyan turned to face the stars outside his window. His reflection stared back at him, hard and sharp and full of barely controlled rage. The queen is sick, he said quietly. Something is wrong with her mind. This human has infected her with weakness. What should we do, Admiral? Haiyan did not answer immediately. He was thinking about power, about opportunity, about what a Villani Empire would look like with a proper ruler. A strong ruler. A ruler who understood that gentleness was disease and compassion was death. Watch her, he finally said. Watch everything. When the time is right, we will act. On the flagship, Yuna was unaware of the danger gathering around her. She was too busy teaching. She taught Nari about human history, about the wars they had fought and the peace they had built, about leaders who had chosen mercy over revenge, about ordinary people who had risked everything to help strangers. She showed Nari music, human songs about love and loss and hope. The first time Nari heard a violin, she sat completely still for an hour afterward, trying to understand what she had experienced. The sound made me feel things, Nari said, confused. Feelings that have no purpose. Why would your species create such a thing? Because feeling things is the purpose, Yuna explained. Music helps us process emotions. It helps us feel less alone. I do not understand. Emotions are weakness. They cloud judgment. They lead to mistakes. Sometimes, Yuna agreed. But they also lead to art, to beauty, to connection with others. Would you give up everything beautiful just to avoid making mistakes? Nari had no answer for that. The days continued to pass. Yuna taught Nari about poetry, about painting, about the human tradition of giving gifts to show affection. She explained birthdays and holidays and the simple act of saying thank you. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, Nari began to change. She started asking her advisors for their opinions instead of simply giving orders. She began using words like please and appreciate. Small changes. Tiny seeds of something new growing in ancient soil, the other Villani noticed. Some were curious. Some were confused. And some, like Admiral Hyan, were furious. One evening, Yuna brought something special to Nari's chambers. It was a small device that played recordings. Human recordings. I want you to hear something, Yuna said. Something important. She pressed a button and a woman's voice filled the room, soft, gentle, singing a simple melody. A lullaby.nar. I listened without moving. The song was short, barely 2 minutes. When it ended, the room was silent. What was that? Nari asked. Her voice sounded strange, thick. A lullaby. It's a song that mothers sing to their children, to help them feel safe, to help them sleep. Mothers? The ones who give birth, the ones who raise the young? Nari was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. I have no memory of my mother. Queens are not born. We are made, selected from the strongest females and trained for centuries. No one sang to me. No one made me feel safe. Yuna's heart broke a little. She moved closer and sat beside Nari on the wide platform that served as a bed. I'm sorry, she said. That sounds very lonely. I did not know it was lonely. I thought it was normal. I thought everyone lived this way. Nari turned to look at her. Your species is raised with songs and gentleness. How can you be warriors? How can you fight and kill when you know what softness feels like? That's exactly why we fight, Yuna said. We fight to protect the soft things. The songs, the children, the people we love. We don't fight because we enjoy violence. We fight because there are things worth protecting. Nari reached out slowly, carefully, and touched Yuna's face. Her fingers traced the curve of Yuna's cheek, learning the shape of human skin. You are so strange, she murmured. So impossibly strange. Then she did something unprecedented. She leaned forward and rested her forehead against Yuna's. In Villani culture, it was a gesture of complete trust. A gesture that queens never made. They stayed like that for a long time, breathing together in the quiet room. Neither of them noticed the small recording device hidden in the wall. Neither of them knew that Admiral Hyan was watching. Neither of them saw the cold smile spreading across his face as he finally found the evidence he needed. The Queen has lost her mind, he said to his gathered officers. She touches the human. She shares breath with prey. She has abandoned everything that makes us strong. He stood up and faced his loyal commanders. The time has come. We will save the Empire from its own queen. We will cut out this infection before it spreads. His eyes glittered with ambition. Prepare the assassins. We strike during the recovery ceremony. And across the Empire, hidden forces began to move, gathering for the kill. The recovery ceremony was a grand event. Thousands of Villani gathered in the great hall of the flagship to celebrate their queen's return to health. Lights of every color danced across the walls. Music that sounded like bells and thunder filled the air. It was beautiful in a cold, precise way. Yuna stood near the back of the hall with Taiho and 10 other crew members from the Horizon's Edge. Captain Doan had finally agreed to let them attend as official human representatives. It was a diplomatic moment, a chance for two species to begin understanding each other. Yuna wore a simple blue dress. She felt small and exposed among the towering aliens, but she kept her head high. She had nothing to be ashamed of. On the raised platform at the center of the hall, Nari sat on her throne. Her wound was fully healed now, hidden beneath ceremonial robes of black and silver. She looked powerful. She looked eternal. But when her eyes found Yuna in the crowd, something soft flickered across her face. She's looking at you. Taiho muttered, I know. This is still insane. I know that too. The ceremony proceeded with speeches and rituals that Yuna did not understand. Villani officers pledged their loyalty. Symbols of conquered worlds were presented. It was all very formal, very ancient, very cold. Then Admiral Hyan stepped forward. He was tall even for a Villani, with a shell marked by hundreds of battle scars. He carried himself like a weapon waiting to be used. When he spoke, his voice cut through the hall like a blade. "Great Queen," he said, "I bring a gift for your recovery." He gestured, and 4 guards carried forward a large chest. They set it before the throne and stepped back. Nari tilted her head. "What gift is this, Admiral?" "Open it and see, Majesty." Something felt wrong. Yuna could not explain how she knew, but her instincts screamed danger. She pushed forward through the crowd, ignoring the startled aliens around her. "Wait," she called out. "Don't open it!" But she was too far away. Too slow. 2 human.NARI touched the chest and it exploded, not with fire. With bodies. Assassins poured out of the chest like insects from a hive. Blades flashed in the ceremonial lights. The Queen's guards fell before they could even draw weapons. Everything happened at once. Nari threw herself backward, dodging the first blade by inches. Her ceremonial robes tangled around her legs. She hit the floor hard. Admiral Hyan drew his own weapon, a long curved sword that glowed with deadly energy. "The Queen is corrupted," he shouted. "She must be cleansed." The hall erupted into chaos. Loyal guards fought assassins. Civilians screamed and ran. In the confusion, no one noticed 12 humans pushing toward the throne. No one except Yuna. She ran. She had never run so fast in her life. The world blurred around her. She could only see one thing: Nari on the floor, an assassin raising a blade above her heart. Yuna slammed into the assassin with all her weight. It was not enough to hurt it, but it was enough to knock the blade aside. The weapon cut through the air where Nari's heart had been a moment before. The assassin turned on Yuna with killing rage. She was nothing. She was prey. She should have been dead in an instant, but Taiho was there. He hit the assassin from behind with a piece of broken ceremonial equipment. Not elegant, not graceful, just brutal human desperation. The assassin staggered and Shinho appeared from nowhere to drive a stolen knife into its throat. "Get the Queen up!" Taiho shouted. "Move, move!" Yuna grabbed Nari's arm and pulled. The Queen was heavy, her shell denser than human bone, but fear gave Yuna strength she did not know she had. "Can you walk?" Yuna demanded. Nari's eyes were wide with shock. "You came for me. You ran toward danger from me." "Of course I did." "Now move." They ran. The 12 humans from the horizon's edge formed a protective ring around their queen. They were not soldiers. They were engineers, scientists, medical staff, but they fought like demons. Myra took a blade across her arm and kept fighting. Jinho broke his hand punching an assassin and used his other hand to grab its weapon. Taiho stood at the front like a wall, refusing to let anything through. Admiral Hyan watched from across the hall. His face twisted with fury. This was not how it was supposed to happen. The Queen should be dead. The humans should be running. Instead, the humans were fighting. For an alien queen they barely knew. For a mission that made no logical sense. "What are you?" he snarled. No one answered him. They were too busy surviving. Nari led them to a hidden door behind the throne. It opened into a narrow passage that only the Queen knew about. They poured inside, and the door sealed behind them. In the darkness, Yuna counted heads. Everyone was alive. Wounded, bleeding, exhausted, but alive. Nari leaned against the wall, breathing hard. Her robes were torn. Her perfect composure was shattered. She looked at the humans around her, at the blood they had spilled to protect her. "I do not understand," she whispered. "Why did you fight for me? You could have escaped. You could have let me die." Taiho laughed. It was a wild, half-crazy sound. "She's your friend. That's what humans do for friends." "Friends," Nari repeated the word like it was from an alien language. Which Yuna supposed it was. "We don't leave people behind," Yuna said. She reached out and took Nari's hand. "Not ever. Not for any reason." Nari stared at their joined hands. Silver tears began to fall from her dark eyes. Villani tears. No one had ever seen a queen cry before. Your species, she whispered. You are completely, impossibly insane. Yeah, Una said with a tired smile. We get that a lot. Outside, Admiral Hyon gathered his forces. The coup had failed, but it was not over. The queen was wounded and running. All he had to do was hunt her down, but as he organized the pursuit, doubt crept into his mind for the first time. 12 humans had held off 40 trained assassins. 12 soft, fragile creatures with no shells and no claws had fought like something out of nightmares. What kind of species produced such warriors? What kind of strength came from caring about others? He pushed the doubt aside. It did not matter. The queen would die. The empire would be cleansed, but the doubt remained, small and persistent, whispering questions he did not want to answer. 3 days passed in the hidden passages beneath the flagship. 3 days of darkness, fear, and slow planning. Nari's loyal guards found them one by one, drawn by secret signals only the queen knew. By the end of the 3rd day, nearly 200 warriors had gathered. It was enough. Admiral Hyon controlled the main decks, but he did not know about the old passages. He did not know about the ancient systems that could lock down the entire ship. He did not know that queens were trained in ways of war that admirals never learned. On the 4th day, Nari struck back. It was not a battle. It was a trap. Hyon and his conspirators found themselves suddenly locked in the main hall, their weapons disabled by codes only the queen possessed. Their own ships, responding to secret commands, turned their guns toward them instead of protecting them. Nari walked into the hall alone. The humans wanted to go with her, but she refused. This is Villani business, she said. I must face him as a queen. Hyon stood in the center of the hall, surrounded by his frozen conspirators. His face showed no fear, only cold hatred. You cannot hide behind your human pets forever, he said. I am not hiding behind anyone. Nari's voice was calm, stronger than it had ever been. I am standing before you, alone as you wanted. Then let us end this. Fight me, kill me, or die yourself. Let strength decide, as it has always decided. Nari was quiet for a moment. She looked at Hyon, at his scars, at the centuries of violence written on his shell. Once she had been exactly like him. Once she had believed exactly what he believed. No, she said. Hyon blinked. No, I will not kill you. I offer you mercy instead. The word hung in the air like something impossible. Mercy, a queen offering mercy to a traitor. It had never happened in the entire history of the Villani Empire. You are insane, Hyon snarled. The humans have destroyed your mind. The humans have opened my mind. Nari stepped closer to him. I have lived for 200 years, Hyon. I have conquered worlds. I have crushed rebellions. I have done everything our empire demands. And I have been empty, hollow, dead inside, until a small human woman touched my wound with gentle hands and asked for nothing in return. She turned to address the entire hall. Her voice rang out clear and strong. I declare a new doctrine for the Villani Empire. We will no longer conquer for the sake of conquest. We will study humanity. We will learn what makes them strong. Not their weapons, not their technology, their hearts. Their impossible, irrational, beautiful hearts. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, shock, confusion, but also, in some eyes, curiosity. You will destroy us, Hyon said. This softness will be the end of everything we built. Or it will be the beginning of something better. Nari looked at him with something that might have been pity. You have a choice, Admiral. Accept exile and live, or reject mercy and face justice. Hyon's hands clenched into fists. For a long moment, Una thought he would attack. She watched from the doorway, ready to run, ready to fight, ready to do whatever was necessary, but Hyon did not attack. Something in his eyes flickered and died, the fire of ambition turning to ash. Exile, he said quietly. I choose exile. Nari nodded. Then go, take your followers. Find a world at the edge of space and live there. But never return. Never threaten what I'm building. Hyan walked past her without another word. His conspirators followed, heads bowed in defeat. They were given a single ship and sent into the darkness between stars. When they were gone, Nari finally allowed herself to sway. The strength that had held her up drained away, and she nearly fell. Yuna was there to catch her. "You did it," Yuna said. "You actually did it. I offered mercy to my enemy." Nari's voice was weak but wondering. "I did not know I could do such a thing," you learned. "I had a good teacher." The formal announcement came the next day. The Queen addressed her empire through screens and speakers on every world. She introduced Yuna not as a pet, not as a curiosity, but as an ambassador. A bridge between species. A friend. The reaction was mixed. Some Vellani embraced the new doctrine eagerly. The young ones, especially those who had seen humans fight and die for their queen, wanted to understand this strange species better. Others resisted. The old guard, the traditionalists, the ones who had built their entire identities around conquest and strength. They grumbled and complained and predicted disaster, but they did not rebel. Not yet. Nari was still their queen, and she had proven, in her own way, that she was still strong. That night, Nari and Yuna stood on the observation deck, watching the stars. "What happens now?" Yuna asked. "Now we learn. Now we grow. Now we try to become something we have never been before." Nari paused. "It will be difficult. Many will not understand. Many will resist, but you'll keep trying?" "Yes, because you taught me something important, Yuna. You taught me that strength is not just about power. It is about choosing who to be. Choosing to be gentle when you could be cruel. Choosing to offer mercy when you could offer death." She turned to look at Yuna. "That is the hardest kind of strength, and I want to master it." Yuna smiled. "You're already learning." Nari reached out and touched the place where her wound had been. It was fully healed now, the shell smooth and unmarked. But she still felt it sometimes. She still remembered those gentle hands, those impossible kindnesses. "Will you stay?" she asked. "Will you help me build this new empire?" Yuna looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. Her home, her people, everything familiar and safe, but here was something new. Something important. Something that might change the fate of galaxies. "Yes," she said. "I'll stay." Nari made that strange sound again. The one that Yuna had learned was Vellani laughter. "Good," the Queen said, "because I still have much to learn about this human concept of friendship." "Don't worry," Yuna said, taking her hand. "We have time." And in the vast darkness of space, two species that should have been enemies stood together, looking toward a future neither of them could have imagined. 1 year had passed since the day Yuna touched a dying queen's wound on a nameless planet. 1 year of impossible changes. 1 year of building something that had never existed before, the first Vellani human cultural exchange center opened on a space station between both territories. It was a strange place, designed by architects from both species. The corridors were tall enough for Vellani, but filled with colors and textures that humans found comforting. Gardens grew alongside mineral pools. Music played from hidden speakers, alternating between human melodies and Vellani harmonics. Yuna walked through the center with Taiho at her side. He was different now. Scars marked his face and arms from the battle in the Great Hall. He wore them with something like pride. "Still can't believe this is real," he said, watching a young Vellani carefully offer a flower to a human child. The child laughed and accepted it. The Vellani made a sound of pure wonder. "They're learning," Yuna said. "Slowly, but they're learning. So are we." Taiho nodded toward a group of human soldiers training with Vellani warriors. They were teaching each other combat techniques, but also, Yuna noticed, sharing jokes and stories. Building friendships across the void of species, the year had not been easy. There were misunderstandings, cultural clashes, moments when everything seemed about to fall apart. Some humans feared the Vellani would revert to conquest. Some Vellani believed the new ways would make them weak, but Nari held the line. She spoke to her people constantly, explaining, teaching, demonstrating. She showed them that gentleness was not weakness. She proved that mercy could be strength. And slowly, impossibly, things changed. The Villani invented a new word, Vahira. It meant one who heals the spirit. There had never been such a word before, because there had never been such a concept. Now it was spoken across hundreds of worlds, and everyone knew who it referred to, Yuna Park, the first Vahira. The human who had touched an empress and changed an empire. Yuna was embarrassed by the title, but Nari insisted. "You are the bridge," the queen said. "You are the proof that our species can understand each other. The people need to see you, need to know you, need to believe in what you represent." So Yuna became a diplomat, a symbol, and a friend to an alien civilization. She missed Earth sometimes. She missed rain and grass and the sound of birds in the morning. But she had found something worth staying for. Admiral Hyun was still out there, somewhere in the darkness at the edge of space. Reports came occasionally, rumors of a growing fleet, whispers of revenge. He had not given up his dream of returning the Empire to the old ways, but he had waited too long. The new generation of Villani did not remember the old ways. They had grown up with human music and human stories and the radical idea that caring for others made you strong. Hyun's message of conquest and cruelty found fewer and fewer listeners. One day, without warning, his ship appeared at the edge of Villani space. Everyone prepared for battle. The fleets mobilized. Weapons powered up. Humans and Villani stood together, ready to defend what they had built. But Hyun did not attack. Instead, he requested an audience with the queen. Nari met him in the Great Hall, the same hall where he had tried to kill her 1 year ago. She stood on her throne, dressed in black and silver. Yuna stood beside her, as she always did now. Hyun knelt before them. He looked older, tired. The fire that had driven him seemed to have burned out, leaving only ash. "I came to understand," he said quietly. "I came to see if the Empire had truly fallen." "And what do you see?" Nari asked. Hyun was silent for a long moment. He looked around the hall at the Villani guards standing beside human soldiers, at the banners that now included both species' symbols, at the queen herself, who had somehow grown more powerful by embracing gentleness. "I see something I cannot explain," he admitted. "The Empire should be weak. It should be crumbling. Instead, it seems stronger than ever. How?" "Because we are no longer alone," Nari said. "For 10,000 years, we conquered and consumed and destroyed. We grew larger, but we did not grow stronger. Now we have allies, friends, species who choose to stand beside us, not because they fear us, but because they care about us." She descended from her throne and approached the old admiral. "You spent your life fighting." "Hyun, fighting enemies, fighting weakness, fighting change." "And where did it lead you?" "To an empty ship at the edge of nothing, with no one who cares if you live or die." Hyun flinched as if struck. "I offer you a choice," Nari continued. "The same choice I offered before. You can return to exile and die alone. Or you can stay, learn, become something new. You would trust me? After everything?" Nari smiled. It was a warm expression, one that would have been impossible a year ago. "I would give you the chance to earn trust. That is what mercy means." Hyun looked at Yuna, standing quietly behind the queen, the small human woman who had somehow turned an empire upside down. "Why?" he asked her directly. "Why did you do all this? What did you gain?" Yuna considered the question carefully. "When I found Nari wounded in that crashed ship, I didn't think about gains or losses. I saw someone hurt and I wanted to help. That's all. Everything else came from that one simple act." "One act of kindness," Hyun said slowly. "And it changed everything. It usually does." The old admiral was quiet for a very long time. The hall waited in silence. Then, slowly, painfully, he lowered his head. "I will stay," he said. "I will try to learn." And so the last great enemy of the new empire surrendered, not to force, but to something he still did not understand. Something soft and strange and impossibly powerful. That night, Yuna and Nari stood on the observation deck. They stood there often now. It had become their place. "He will struggle," Nari said. The old ways are deep in him. But he can change. Everyone can change. You prove that. Nari turned to look at her. After a year, Yuna could finally read the Queen's expressions. She saw gratitude there. She saw affection. She saw something that might have been love in whatever form Villani understood it. When you first touched my wound, Nari said, were you not afraid? Yuna laughed softly. They had this conversation before. They would probably have it many more times. Terrified, she admitted. Then why? Because you were hurt. And I could help. Nari closed her eyes. Her long fingers found Yuna's hand and held on. Humanity, she murmured. You strange, impossible, beautiful creatures. You change everything you touch. Is that a bad thing? No, it is the most wonderful thing I have ever known. They stood together in the starlight, queen and healer, alien and human, two beings who should never have understood each other. Outside, the universe continued its eternal dance of birth and death and change. But here, in this moment, everything was exactly as it should be. So what happens next? Yuna asked. Nari opened her eyes and smiled. Next, we keep touching wounds gently until every wound in the galaxy heals. Yuna squeezed her hand. That sounds like a good plan. And it was.